Now, before we welcome our next guest, we want to run a little movie for you, a little clip. Wow, let's fly to Monaco to the Grand Prix. So let me introduce you on that note to Michelle Rosa-Wolfe, who is the Executive Vice President of Sales at VistaJet. Since 2016, Michelle has been instrumental in supporting the accelerating growth of VistaJet's global business. With a background in fine art, combined with entrepreneurial expertise, Michelle has successfully catered to the exclusive clientele of business aviation. She now oversees a team operating across 29 countries in Eastern Europe and Central Asia, providing optimized flying solutions for both aircraft owners and passengers chartering private jets. Please welcome Michelle. So, Michelle, maybe, after this wonderful movie, maybe you tell us briefly what VistaJet is all about, just in your own words.
Yes, absolutely, and I hope it's something a little bit different for the room today. So VistaJet is a privately owned private aviation company that now owns over 400 aircraft globally. And we service our clients across the world in two different ways. The first way is via subscription hours, flight hours on our fleet, and the secondary way is ad hoc charter flying. And today I hope to discuss more about innovation, our technologies that we're using to enable our business growth, and particularly that of Romania as well. We're in a room full of visionaries, and I think that our worlds do coexist, and it's something a bit different for you.
Very good. So apart from the obvious time savings that can be achieved with kind of point-to-point private flights, what other arguments are there to use private jets? What other advantages can you give, or inflection points where it makes sense to fly private jets?
It makes sense for efficiency, and I think as the world is changing and has changed significantly over the last 4 or 5 years in terms of travel, where we've been halted, where we've had the experience to be able to travel again, efficiency really is key. So of course flying privately is obvious that it saves you time. I'm sure all of us have spent many hours at the airport. Certainly I did last night in Bucharest when all the flights were cancelled. It enables you to have efficiency in your life, which not only enhances your experience of life, which I think is very important, but also enables you to grow your businesses faster, to meet the people that you want to meet. We live in a world of modern technology, and it's been incredible to experience some of that during this event. But what is always needed is that face-to-face interaction, that networking, that connectivity, and this product or our company enables people to do that faster, more efficiently, and of course can save on costs as well.
Very good. Now, the obvious question that comes up in relation to private jets is, of course, the environment and CO2 emissions. And what do you say to that? What are how is that compared to other modes of transport, etc.?
Firstly, it's very, very important to us,
Yeah.
and for myself as an individual, I'm sure to everyone else in this room. I'm very proud to say that Vista is a leading voice for sustainability within both private aviation, but we have also managed to encourage those of commercial aviation companies to really step forward with their sustainability plans as well. So, for example, investing into the purchasing of sustainable aviation fuel, also known as SAF. We're one of the largest purchasers of SAF. We've purchased over 4.2 million gallons to date.
Maybe just for the audience, it's about 8 to 10 times more expensive than regular jet fuel.
Yeah.
So it's a real cost issue.
It is, and it's very, very expensive, but by purchasing more and having that ability to do so with our global presence and vast company, we're encouraging more people to do that, so that brings down that pricing, so that we can all start using that in the future for a greener environment. And I think that just goes some way to say that Vista are really on the pulse of pushing that voice of sustainability within our market. We're also obviously offsetting CO2 carbon emissions. We're doing our regular environmental reporting.
How does that work, the offsetting? Is it the client that chooses, or do you automatically incorporate it in?
So as part of our main business model, which is a program subscription of hours, the client typically signs up to a number of hours per year. It's usually a long-term relationship, 3 years or so. And in that agreement, which is a very small, 4-page agreement where they have a very transparent offering, there's also inclusion of our sustainability and the offsetting of CO2 carbon commissions. Now, when I started nearly 10 years ago, perhaps not all of our clients wish to participate, but that has changed dramatically since we're sort of screaming from the rooftops about our importance of sustainability in our world, as it's very important.
Yeah, so changing tack a bit, if you look at your business versus competition, other operators, how does VistaJet differentiate itself in the marketplace overall?
Well, I think many people in this room today, there's some very young, bright minds that I've been meeting, and it's been really interesting to talk about the world of private aviation, because it seems so far away from the everyday language. But actually that has shifted over recent years, and the more exposure there is to private aviation with the worlds of TikToks and Instagrams, people have accessibility to worlds that perhaps they didn't have before. And so therefore we differ because we have a very unique business model. Traditionally, you could only own an aircraft, purchase a private jet, use it for your family or your business. And that comes with its own financial burdens, it comes with its operational headaches. It simply doesn't make sense to own such a large asset in today's world of a shared economy and renting, if you will, and the sort of go now aspect of life.
It's a bit like Uber for
we are, yes. We've designed a concept that is completely new. You don't buy any part of our aircraft. You don't have to invest into any depreciating assets. You simply buy the hours that you need to fly. We guarantee you that your aircraft will be there within 24 hours notice. And that's simply a style of a shared economy. So you can fly anywhere in the world, whether you're in the middle of the US, Asia, Africa, India, the Middle East, Europe. Our aircraft are global and enable people to move to do that.
And so what do you do? So if we sort of switch a bit more towards the technology that you deploy to do this, how do you innovate on that front? What kind of technologies are you using and what's the setup on that front within the company?
Absolutely. So Vista we're in our 20th year this year. We're celebrating 20 years of our foundation, of our company starting. And in the 10 years almost that I've been here, we started with something like 36 aircraft that we privately owned. And now we have over 400. We started investing into technology probably about when I started, about 10 years ago. And what's really important about our business is we've grown so vastly as the world's leading private aviation company with 4,000 employees, but 350 of those employees are our tech experts. because what we found in private aviation as a company is we really need to use machine learning data. We really needed to understand how to manage these 400 aircraft. If you imagine the way of being able to schedule 400 aircraft with, thousands of clients globally, and they have guaranteed availability with 24 hours, the scheduling of that is mind-boggling. So we've really had to lean on technology to help us through that. So our experts are currently developing new forms of technology for aviation to be able to optimize our fleet so that we can predict where patterns will emerge, so we can understand in 4 months' time where the surgence of business will come from. A good example of that is we've just finished our African tour, where we've moved our aircraft into Africa because we've seen a surgence of business needed there, as well as India. And I think that with the use of technology and fostering these experts that we have to come up with new innovations and new ideas as to how to understand our clients, predict where the business is going to be, will help us to move our assets around to accommodate that business, which is in turn accelerates our growth.
And it's not just moving the plane in the right place. No, I mean, there must be more by way of complexity, kind of operationally. I don't know, I'm thinking meals,
absolutely.
I don't know, maintenance, all kinds of things, right? Predictive maintenance.
And you can imagine from crew scheduling, for example, we have to schedule our crews, and finding your crews and making sure that they're at that aircraft in time across the whole globe is a feat of its own. Coming back to your point on food, which most of our clients are big foodies. So you can imagine I have about 50 clients that on average have 200 hours of flying per year. Every one flight is probably 50 changes to their flight, whether it's I'd like to change the salmon to steak, for example. About 50 changes, and if they're flying 200 hours a year, then you're looking at how many correspondence that is. It's a vast number. And we're simply not able to do that manually. Not only would the headcount be through the roof to employ these people, but that's why we lean on technology, because we need that machine-based learning. We need to be able to predict. We need to be able to automate. And we're really the first company that's invested so much into that as well.
And how does that being deployed? Is that an internal system? Is that an internal software platform that people are using? Or how is that?
We've got various internal software systems that we use. We're currently developing one called Skybot, which is helping us with our competitor intelligence, which I think is really important, but also, again, helping us to optimize areas with our fleet so that we can understand where we need to put these assets. That's something that we've been in development for some time, but also the way we operate a day-to-day business, our customer interface, and it sounds quite basic, I'm sure, to many in this room, but when we developed our app, for example, we wanted to show where all of our aircraft were at any time in the world. And now we have, as I mentioned, 400 of these aircraft. But we also partner with aircraft operators around the globe, adding another 2,000 aircraft into this one app. And being able to go onto the app and book a flight with a touch of the button, order your food with a touch of the button, all that back house work that needs to be done through the interface the client has is remarkable in this industry. It's a very pen and paper industry before, and now we've advanced it to a level where wherever you are in the world, you want to organize a flight for your mom in America and you're in Indonesia, you can do that through the app. And I think that's very revolutionary in this industry.
Can I download that app and just kind of try it out or something?
Yeah, absolutely. And I encourage everyone here to do so. I think the myths around private flying have been around for decades. It's for this person, it's for that person. But actually 10% of our clients for this program subscription model are under the age of 30. So that gives you a kind of an indication here as to how our business has evolved, or how the industry has evolved over the years. and moving to sort of the tech side of things, about 42% of our clientele are involved actively or directly in tech companies or are innovators themselves, high net worth individuals that are involved directly with tech. So for us, we're seeing a surgence in the business that we do. It is something that I think is available to anyone. Now that we have such a vast company across the globe, we're able to offer our services to anybody that even thinks about flying, or most importantly, thinks about flying privately before they're able to do so, so that when the time is ready, they think of Vista. And I think that's where we're at today.
You mentioned to me before that how many million people have downloaded the app?
2.3 million people have downloaded our app, and that goes right from students all the way up to the multi-wealthy that want to have a look and then contact us for a conversation. The app is called the XO app. You can download that and have a play around. It's a really interesting way to see where markets are and understand the private aviation world. I mean, the services we provide now go from seat sharing. So in the US, you simply buy a seat on a private jet. It means you get to your meetings quickly. It means you're able to execute your business more efficiently, all the way up to what I do, which is the program membership side of ours.
That's super cool. And so with all of this, where do you see the industry evolving, and where do you see VistaJet in a few years' time in terms of business model, etc.?
Well, because our fleet are floating, so contrary to what most people think, we're not a charter company, we are an operator, so essentially a logistics company, if you will, where we're getting people from A to B efficiently. Our aircraft are not based in one place. They are global, they're floating, which is why we mentioned the Uber of private jets, if you like. You just order it today and fly tomorrow. That's really the concept we've built. But looking at where that future goes is using or fostering technology to help us do that. Referencing our India-Africa comment about where is new business developing. It's developing in India, it's developing in Asia, it's in Africa. And we're very fortunate to be able to move our business wherever we want to and move our aircraft there. For Romania, a good example is last year compared to just half of the year this year, our business in terms of aircraft movements in and out of Romania has increased 36%. So as much as we look at, I mean, the 29 countries that I cover in the sort of Eastern European region, bit of the US, Dubai and Europe, we're seeing each of the countries are increasing as well, the mature markets. So, and that comes directly from the growth of imagination, the growth of entrepreneurs, of ideas, and that's why I'm really finding this experience it's enjoyable, because I'm seeing such visionaries discussing new forms of technology, and therefore we align ourselves with that directly because we're able to service these people, if not now, in the future.
Yeah, no, that's actually a big advantage. Like you say, you can just take your fleet and move it. I wonder if there is an element of using technology, kind of not just predict and react, but also to sort of not just react rather, but also to predict kind of movements where things are going to go to in terms of, I don't know, seasons or events or things. Do you have that in your technology to?
Yes, and that's partly what we're developing at the moment is about prediction. Because if we can predict where the business needs to be and we can optimize our fleet and position them accordingly, then of course that brings savings to our clients and we can pass those on. So it's good for them, but it's also good for us to be able to predict what we need. But in terms of when we look at the world generally, anything can happen on a dime. I mean, with situations that have occurred certainly in the last few years, we need to pivot and we need to move. So being able to predict that is very important. Some of the technology that's already out there is very good, and we're sort of growing that already. There are some apps that you can download and literally track flights and private flights. I'm sure most of you have seen news in the press how pop stars can be tracked and so on.
Elon Musk.
Yeah, it's one of those scenarios where, for Vista, we're looking at because we're such a large company, how can we predict where people are going to be flying into, but also predict how busy that airport's going to be when they want to depart? And that's really where we're going to be able to grow our business.
Lovely. I want to open up the floor for questions to Michelle, if anybody has any. Whoa, that was
I have a big
fast.
question over here.
Just over here.
Hello, my name is Gabriel. I'm from Arc Engineering, and I have a question regarding: have you had any boundaries or difficulties flying your aircrafts or moving your business to a country?
Certainly, we have to adhere to regulations of authorities. That's the first. I mean, we're known as a commercial operator, even though we're not a commercial airline as such. So all the regulations we do have to adhere to. Of course, there are challenges that we do face, but safety is paramount for us. It's the first point of importance for our customers. Not only do we fly entrepreneurs around the world, but also governments, institutions, and it's very important to us that those regulations are followed. So again, we do work with part of technology to help us do that. So we are always communicating with the authorities and with different platforms in order to get the most recent updates. I think it's something like 20,000 updates per day that we're getting at the moment in terms of global updates on current regulations and restrictions. So yes, we do face challenges, but what we're really proud of at Vista is, although we're such a global company, our founder and chairman himself is an entrepreneur and a vision. And he founded this company under a very entrepreneurial spirit. So for us, we're able to foresee and come up with new ideas and be able to focus on local countries as well. So rather than having just a global presence and we're a global company, we very much have the experience and wealth of knowledge in local areas as well to really understand the relationships that are needed and to understand how we can implement that into our systems and use that to help us.
Thank you, Michelle. Over there is a question.
So here, you talked about challenges, and my question is, what was the biggest challenge for VistaJet in the last 10 to 15 years? Maybe COVID crisis or maybe economical crisis, the war, stuff like that.
Okay, so challenges, I say the biggest challenge that we have, or certainly that I have at Vista, is the first step, is getting our clients to step on board the aircraft. We can talk about how glamorous it is and look at these beautiful machines, and it's very exciting. But really to understand what we do as a company is to have our potential members join us on board, and that's a very big challenge for us. But once they're on board, that's when it becomes an appetite for what we do, and they see the value in the efficiencies of flying privately, the time saving, they're not waiting at airports for endless hours, especially airports that do not have air conditioning, as yesterday's experience taught me. But you know, it's a very hard thing to present to a customer to really understand the value of flying privately. But when the customers that we have grow into a phase where they can try us, they will do so. And just touching on COVID for a second, COVID obviously was a very unfortunate time for many people. But the fact that we can own our assets and we operate them and we own them privately, and they're not based in a particular area, we can simply up and move them wherever we feel the business need is. During COVID, it certainly was a challenge for us to pivot very quickly, but we were very fortunate to be able to move our aircraft around and also help governments in repatriation, which we did, which was a really proud moment for us as a company. But on top of that, it meant that it exposed private aviation to those that perhaps either didn't consider it before or thought it was too expensive. They needed something, and private aviation comes very much from a need perspective. So it enabled us to be able to have new members join us, new customers try us, which has resulted in our business growth.
So question. So I just started my flight lesson, so I would like to ask you how do you get into the private business?
How did I get into private
And,
aviation?
what motivated you and what attracted you in particular? Because it
Yeah.
could be a way to answer.
Absolutely. And yes, it's a good point. So I was in the fine arts world before, selling paintings around the globe and artworks. And I very much come from an art background, which I loved. And it took me all around the world. So I also love travel. And I think that travel for me is really the education of life. I've now traveled to 132 countries, all 7 continents, and so if there's anyone that needs to know about a holiday destination, you can ask me later. But really, I was targeted by Vista through the beautiful means of LinkedIn. The connectivity that brings to a lot of people globally is great, and really they just asked if I'd pop in for a conversation, and I did that almost a decade ago. I loved the entrepreneurial spirit of our business. It's the one driver for me that I think is really key in any business that is innovating, that is pushing boundaries, that is expanding and growing. And for me, that's what excites me the most about the long continued future of Vista.
Well, Michelle, I'm afraid I think the schedule is going to move us on. Unfortunately, it was lovely to talk to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
And thank you for presenting this to the audience. It was amazing. Thank you.